Sarah, one of the things that I love about coming here is that every year we find more things that confirm the Bible. You know, if you come up right from here, you come right to this area below the Temple Mount, and it goes right down to
The Pool of Siloam.
where we were. And that pool, as I told you down there, was discovered in 2004. But every year there are new discoveries. Every year. One of the discoveries that gave me really great joy, I was reading in my office. It was an archaeological journal many years ago, and I was reading an article, and as I was reading, he was stating things about Sodom as though it's been found. What?
They found it?
As in Sodom and Gomorrah, found. And I ran to my wife and I said, you can't believe what I'm reading. And then I decided to go back to my office. I'm going to call this archaeologist named Steve Collins. He's in the United States.
Oh, nice.
He had the permit to do the excavation, Tel El Hammam, in Jordan. And I said, I need to know what you've done, what's the evidence, tell me. And so we had a nice long conversation, very friendly, wanted to help me understand. I appreciated it very much. In fact, he's published a book on this subject. Basically, it's this. He began looking at what the Bible says. Abraham and Lot were living at Bethel, near Ai and Bethel in that area, about 10 miles from the Jordan River. And that's when Abraham and Lot's herdsmen were not getting along, and Abraham says we must separate. And he said, you can choose over there on the east of the Jordan or here on the west, whatever you want. And he chose the east of the Jordan because it was lush and nice. I don't think it's described as lush and nice today. But anyway, that told him that Sodom must be somewhere that you could see from north of the Dead Sea, about 10 miles to the north, not far from Jericho. And yet most of the scholars, there had been debate forever about where is Sodom and Gomorrah. Most assumed it was down at the south end. Some assumed it was under the sea, actually, that the Dead Sea had risen and covered ancient Sodom. In fact, let me read to you what I have in my notes. These are revised notes. I revise my notes every so often. But in 1999, I wrote these words, and I decided I'm going to keep those words so I can remember what I used to say. So let me just read what I put. The location of Sodom and Gomorrah has been long debated. Two views. Number one, most believe Sodom and Gomorrah were at the south end of the Dead Sea, perhaps under the area now covered by salt plains and mountains of salt. Two, however, some scholars believe the biblical text would point us to believing the plain of Jericho is opposite Jericho. That makes sense. Sodom would be closer to the top of the Dead Sea. This is my view. So long before I ever heard about this, that was my view. And there are a number of other reasons. I just put down a whole list. It's large. It is very large. It has city walls. Remember, Lot sat outside the city walls. Its location is just perfect. The occupation, it was destroyed about 2000 BC and then remained unoccupied for about 500 years based on pottery and so forth. That appears to be the case. The Trinitite, that I learned from Steve Collins. I really didn't know anything about this. Or a Tunguska event. I didn't know anything about it. He asked me if I knew. I said, no, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. He said, you got to look it up. And he described it, and then I looked it up. Okay, a Tunguska event. It's named for Tunguska, Russia. Early in the 20th century, a meteor came down, hit the atmosphere above the earth right there. As it entered, it caused what would be like an atomic bomb going off. And the number of trees, you can't believe the numbers. There are actually a countless number of papers, scholarly papers on this subject. And I didn't know anything about it, but basically it just wiped out hundreds of thousands of trees. miles and miles of land. Everything was destroyed, laid flat. It's like a bunch of atomic bombs going off at once.
Where did this happen?
In Russia.
Oh.
Tunguska,
Russia. I
Russia.
see.
Okay. And then he told me, I believe that's what happened over Sodom. The Lord uses natural means over and over. Read the Bible. It's there.
Huh.
And so he says he thought a Tunguska event is how God destroyed the cities of the plain that were so evil. And he says evidence. There's Trinitite.
What is Trinitite?
Well, Trinity is where we exploded our atomic bomb when we first developed atomic bombs. And because the temperatures are so high, so intense, it turns that sand into a green glass. And he says, guess what? On the backside of some of the pottery, on the backside of some rocks, we had Trinitite. And he took it to our national labs there at Los Alamos. He said, I want you to analyze this, tell me the age. And he said the people were mystified by what he brought them, wanted to know where he got it. He said, I want the answer and then we'll talk about it, but I want the answer first.
Oh my gosh. That's so exciting.
And it sure was Trinitite. And so when I heard that story, I said to my wife, Nita, we got to go. We got to go.
Let's go, yeah.
So we did. Boy,
was
you
it?
talk about a tough thing to find. I went with maps, but you get over to that part of Jordan, there is no road with a name. I stopped and talked to every pharmacy because pharmacists speak English. I talked to policemen I thought they might know. I just went in circles, and finally I stopped at a Muslim school. We had just been looking and looking, just about ready to give up.
Oh no. Did you find it?
We went to the Muslim school, and I said to the school teacher, have you ever heard of this spot? And she said, oh yeah, it's just about a mile down the road. She would have said mile, it'd been kilometers, of course. And it's just right down there, and it's not hard to find, and it's just, I said, describe it in more detail, because we'd been looking so much. Describing it, where exactly? And she says, just, you want me to show you? I said, yes, please. So she got in a car and drove us right to the spot, and we climbed up that hill, and I couldn't believe all the survey markers, tools, pottery, piles of pottery,
goodness.
and we went down into the digs, and there it was, an ash layer just as plain as day.
Oh my goodness.
You could see it.
Wow.
I've never
That's
told you this story.
amazing.
I think it's most impressive. Now let me tell you, not everyone agrees that that's the spot. There's a location south of there where it's not a populated area today. It's basically desert, but we know it's a large city at one time. Some people believe that's the spot.
I see, but
I don't know. I think even if that is not Sodom, that city was destroyed at the same time. I think that's what makes sense. And so that's the experience I have had countless times where I come here and say, what's new? Or I've read about what's new and I have to go find it. But it's a wonderful thing to know that in 100 different experiences, just in my lifetime, I have seen things that have confirmed the Bible. It is always going to be proved true. Just give it time. When people question, I say, just give it time. Just give it time. Time's on our side.